So would you believe me if I told you that this flashlight has a retail value of over $585 US? It's true. So yeah, I recently wanted to add some more flashlights to my collection. It's been a little while. So some of my friends recommended Loop Gear. Never heard of them before. Went to their website, found their SK-03 flagship flashlight model. So these are my everyday carry flashlights. I'm gonna get into these in the video, but first, I wanted to talk to you about the SK-05, which is another flashlight I found on their website, which was recently fully kickstarted, I think in like November or something like that. All right, let's talk about the build quality. We've got an all aluminum construction, really solid flashlight. As you can see, it's pretty darn rugged looking. We've got IP68 dust and water resistance ratings. We've got a 1 meter drop resistance rating. We've got 6,000 milliamp hours of battery. It's actually two 3,000 milliamp hour batteries, 18650 size. You've got your USB-C charging port there, which can actually 20 watt fast charge, which is fantastic, right? So you don't have to wait around forever for this thing to charge. Although if you do want to replace the batteries, there's a couple of screws on the bottom there that you just pop those out. Batteries slide right out, replace them with whatever you want. It's also reverse chargeable, so you can plug your phone into it and this can act as a battery charger if you wanted. Let's get into light sources. We've got 2 light sources at the top here, and actually we've got 3 light sources if you count this little LED bar on the side here, which we'll get into. As far as functions go, on the top you've got a dial here, which is what controls your modes. So we've got a flood mode and a spotlight mode, as you can see here. There you go. Each one has, I think, 4 brightness settings. So you just press it and then press and hold, as you can see. And same thing for the spotlight. Something else I wanted to point out is the magnetic bottom. This has been really, really handy for me for working underneath my truck. I just smack this onto the frame and it just illuminates my work area for me. My only complaint is that the length and weight of the flashlight compared to the strength of the magnets isn't exactly balanced that well. So if you do happen to smack it a little bit, it is pretty prone to falling off. Okay, let's talk about the different light modes, shall we? So we've got 3 light sources, 2 of which are on the top here. We've got our floodlight and our spotlight. And then of course on the side, we've got this little LED light strip. And then along the side here, we've got our light mode selection switch, or our light source selection switch. So the first one is the floodlight. And then the second one is the spotlight. And then, like I mentioned just a moment ago, there's your LED side light. Now each mode has 4 brightness settings, a low, medium, high, and a turbo mode. Now in spotlight mode at the lowest brightness setting, we've got 10 lumens, which is a fantastic moonlight mode. And then at turbo, we've got 750 lumens. Look at that. Now in floodlight mode on low, we've got 20 lumens, and turbo is 2100 lumens. I can feel the heat on my hand. That's wild. So as you can see, both light modes get really bright, but what if you need more light? Well, we've got the ability to activate both front light sources. So whether you're in floodlight or spotlight mode, you just press and hold and both activate at the same time, as you can see, for a total of 2850 lumens, projecting up to 380 meters or 1246 feet. Which is wild, dude. Now, the battery runtime is as equally impressive. So in spotlight mode on low, you can get 20 days of battery life. And turbo, you'll get 9.5 hours, which is what? 9.5 hours of turbo? Who needs that much? In floodlight on low, you'll get, again, 20 days worth of battery and about 6.5 hours on turbo mode, which again is still a very long time for that brightness setting. And the side light should give you at least 20 days straight of runtime, depending on the brightness or, the mode you choose, because the side light does have several different modes. So let's get into those right now. Firing it up, we've got a nice bright ambient mode light here. We can adjust the brightness by just pressing and holding the button. There is 6 different modes to choose from. You double press to get to the next mode. Each mode has different brightness settings and color adjustments. So if we wanted to adjust the brightness on here, we would quadruple click 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and that adjusts it. If we press and hold, that'll adjust the color. All right, we'll go to the next mode just to kind of give you guys an idea of the cycle here. Again, we can change the color, we can change the brightness. There's the next one. There's the next one, and so on. We've also got an emergency mode. So if we triple click 1, 2, 3, that puts us into emergency mode. And I think if we press and hold. Yeah, there we go. Press and hold. That adjusts the speed. So that's kind of a neat feature. If you're camping, the ambient mode would be really great for in the tent. If you're in an emergency situation, great to stick on the side of your car because it's got the magnetic butt. So yeah, that is the SK-05. I do find that memorizing all the different click combinations to sort of navigate through the different modes and brightness settings is a bit overwhelming and hard to remember all of that. But beyond that, the flashlight itself is fantastic. 6,000 milliamp hour battery, dual light sources, high lumen output, high throw distance. It's waterproof, USB-C charging, 20 watt fast charging, acts as a power bank. It's a really handy flashlight. So that's the SK-05. Let's go ahead and talk about the SK-03s now. So the SK-03 is sort of Loop Gear's like flagship flashlight model, if you will. It's their most convenient, in my opinion, the coolest flashlight that they have. I grabbed two different versions. This is the Superconductor version. This one is pretty much going to be staying in my collection and very seldomly used. This one is the aluminum version. Ooh, if it'll focus there, is the aluminum version. And this is the one that I'm going to be carrying with me most often. So if I drop it, I'm not going to get all excited. If I was to drop the Superconductor version, I'd probably get... Now there are a bunch of different materials you can choose from, right? It starts at about $50 US, I believe. But I mean, like you can get titanium, you can get zircon, you can get titanium Damascus, you can get brass, which looks really cool, stainless steel. You've got a bunch of different, you can also get a bunch of different colors in the aluminum version as well. So that's neat. Now the real draw for me with these flashlights is their side lights, their yttrium lights. Now, what is yttrium? I'm going to tell you all about that in a second, so let's just go over all the specs, all right? Now, the battery that this comes with is a rechargeable 920 milliamp hour 14500 sized battery, so perfect for EDC size. It has an IP6 5 dust and water rating with a drop rating of up to 1 meter. Now, the inner cylinder, if you can see there, it is aluminum, and that's the same on all versions. Personally, I do wish that it was the same material as the outside, just so kind of everything matches. But it still looks really cool and it doesn't, hinder the performance in any way. My guess is probably just to keep costs down a little bit. Now, there's two different main LED light colors that you can choose from. You can get a 6500 Kelvin Philips LED, which is more of like a daylight color, or you can go with the 4000 Kelvin Nichia LED light, which is a little bit warmer, but it has a much higher CRI or color rendition index. It's a lot more color accurate. All right, so let's talk about these yttrium side lights, all right? What is it? Well, it's essentially Loop Gear's alternative to tritium lighting. And tritium is a decomposing radioactive isotope that glows in the dark without needing to be charged by light. It comes in all kinds of different colors. It was adopted by the EDC community years ago. But the problem with these is that they only glow in the dark, very dark, and it's a subtle glow. So it's not that helpful for finding things. And that's where Loop Gear came up with these yttriums that run at extremely low voltages. So I'm going to go ahead and activate this by pressing and holding the tail cap for 1 second. And there it is in full brightness mode. There are 3 modes. There's your SOS mode right there. And then we've got a low mode right there. Now, my favorite mode though with these yttrium lights is micro mode, which actually runs these lights at 0.1 lumens all the time. So it's like always on display, if you will, with your phone. But at 0.1 lumens, always on, it's got a rating for, I think they said it about 2 years of always consistently keeping those yttriums on. But if you've got it in your bag, you've got it on your nightstand, you can see it from across the room. It's like the perfect brightness level. These lights have been extremely useful and convenient for me in so many different scenarios. Now in the box, they actually give you 4 different little diffusers, light diffusers for the yttrium lights. And you'll notice on the body here, we've got some different sort of cutouts and you just kind of line up the your diffuser with that, snaps on, and we'll go ahead and press it, turn it on here. Let me get the full brightness, and there we go. So you've got a color diffused light, 360 degree lighting, really nice ambient light actually. I personally prefer not to use these. I want the full brightness, but really cool idea, and it's nice that they just include them in the box for you. Now the SK-03 uses what's called an E-click tail switch. Now why would someone want an E-click tail switch as opposed to like your traditional spring assisted analog tail switch? It's supposed to allow you to get through the different modes faster, because there's less travel distance. Anyways, it's an extremely capable flashlight with 4 different brightness modes. So we've got low, medium, high, and then you double click for your turbo mode. And on low, we're running at 7 lumens, which has a runtime of 50 hours. All the way up to turbo mode at 1000 lumens for 2.5 hours. There's also a strobe mode if you triple click, but I hate that, and nobody uses strobe mode anyway, so who cares? So why is this particular model so expensive at $585 US? Well, like I mentioned before, it's the material, right? This is made out of a material called superconductor. It's not a superconductor. It's what superconductors are made out of. Essentially, what a superconductor rod is made out of is a giant rod of copper, special copper, with a bunch of holes drilled in it in a pre-specified pattern, which is then impregnated with a special type of titanium rod. So then those rods are then impregnated into the holes in the copper rod. It's all fused together, and they can make all sorts of different patterns depending on the type of resistance needs and the type of magnetic properties that they do or don't want in it. And the whole cool property behind superconductor material is that it creates 0 electrical resistance once frozen to 0 degrees or below. So that's why it's used in things like MRI machines and like the Hadron Collider, for example. So when they make these rods, depending on what angles you cut them at, you can get different cool patterns out of them, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and show you a better close-up of this particular flashlight, but this was actually cut on several different angles. Each piece was cut on different angles, which is what creates the sort of different zebra, tiger stripes facing different directions. The button, on the other hand, was cut straight through, which is why you can see all the different titanium rods, or at least this sort of density pattern, if you will, which is really, really cool. And furthermore, because copper oxidizes pretty easily, as you handle and use superconductor, or even any copper material for that matter, it starts to create a bit of a patine, right? So now it's starting to look sort of like weathered. It's got this cool sort of used antique look on the copper parts, but all the titanium parts are still polished and looking shiny. What a cool material. So that is why the flashlight in my right hand costs $585, and the one in my left hand, made out of aluminum, costs $49.95. So anyways, I give the SK-03 my personal like highest recommendation as far as like a new EDC flashlight goes. If you want something a bit of a step up over your standard $20 dollar store flashlight or your hardware store flashlight, fantastic EDC size, 920 milliamp hour battery is an awesome battery capacity. You've got the E-tritium lights, incredibly handy, fantastic brightness modes, fantastic throw distance, and enough material options for anyone's budget or taste. Anyways, as always, I'll have some links in the description in case you wanted to check these out a little bit more. But thanks as always for watching, and I'll talk to y'all in the next one. Cheers!